Hello everyone. So I am here today with two of my boys who always look so odd on camera, so I apologize for that. They just get really washed out because they are very pale. Because I don't know, I think it's because he's newer resin than my resin soul lead. He's a Bobby Apollo on the resin soul gang body, and he is much paler than she is and always looks washed out and odd on camera. And then there's of course Loki, who because of his face up just always looks freaking washed out and cracked out. It's kind of funny. So he is a Dolly's Noir, and his name's Loki, his name's Sparrow, just in case you have not met them. And I'm actually going to answer Denali Wynn's scenario prompt with them, kind of individually. And they're actually very simple to answer for, but for some reason I just really wanted to, simply because of him, of Loki, because I thought it was funny. But the first scenario would be your characters are, they're busy at work or they happen to be in school and their hair keeps getting in their face. What do they do? Okay, so for Sparrow, he just, to be perfectly honest, he really does not care about appearance and whatnot. It's not like he doesn't try, because I'm not going to say that, but he pretty much is a very low-key sort of guy. Low-key. Low-key sort of guy. He just, goes with the flow on a lot of things. So to be honest, if his hair was getting in his way, he would just, like, knowing him, he would just get something to tie it back, or he would just keep slicking off his face, or he'd put on his hat and just cover all his hair just to let it, not be in his face anymore. He would just, do that and carry on. He wouldn't care. Like, he would put anything on his head to keep his hair out of his face, because it would annoy him. It really would. But that's just how he would be. He would just be very like, okay, this is the issue, I'll deal with it by doing this. And he could look totally crazy or weird or what have you, and he wouldn't give two craps about it. Now, Loki here, on the other hand, he actually is a fae, and he actually happens to be a she. And they're a little more fussy. So if hair was getting in his face and he was really busy, to be perfectly honest, whatever he was doing, he would stop and he would go get his hair done. And I'm not even like over exaggerating about that. He would definitely just go and be like, okay, obviously there's something wrong with my hair right now. Let me just go get it done. And he would go get it done and come back and go back to work. And he wouldn't think two things about that. That's just what he would do. And it has happened a lot, because usually he lets his hair grow out because he likes his hair longer. But if it starts to annoy him, he's just not going to put up with it. So that's what he would do in that scenario. And then the next one is, now I'm just playing with his hair. Next scenarios is, your character drops a sandwich on the ground. What would they do? And to be honest, Sparrow would just pick it up, dust it off, and eat it. He wouldn't give any qualms about it. He wouldn't really give two thoughts about it. And there's really no reasoning behind it. Like with Haru, as I was explaining, he would just be like, it's still edible. It didn't fall in something gooey. He would just keep going with it. I mean, there's nothing to really be said about it. He's very uncomplicated, and I actually enjoy that randomly about his character. It makes him just very easy to write. I think it's because he has bigger things to deal with than hair and sandwiches. So well, as for Loki here, he would actually, that sandwich would be dead to him. He would not even remotely want to even begin to eat that. and he would definitely make Sparrow pick it up. Because he'd be like, okay, that's just gross. I don't like it. And Sparrow, being the way he is, would pick it up. And actually, knowing him, he'd probably just eat that too. Because he'd be like, it's not gross. And Loki'd be like, oh, like he'd be like that behind him, like, oh my god. But is that he's also super fussy about his food. And that's not even really completely because he's she, but it is a lot of it because they just don't do that. Like he has to draw some lines somewhere, and that's where he draws some lines. So that is the answer for that one. And then there's Sarah's added one about characters driving along and they hit a dog and it's injured. What do they do? Well, in Sparrow's case, he is a very level-headed individual about things, which is good. um, he sounds kind of so boring, but he really does have bigger things to worry about, like with his missing mother and sister. And to be perfectly honest, that's why he's able to handle things, big things or small things or anything, as long as it's not as big as his missing sister and mother and his missing memories, then he can definitely handle it. And so in this case, he would be very level-headed, and he would probably first call. I mean, no, not first. First, he would check the dog over, see exactly if he could see what the injuries are. If he can't really like visually see what was going on, he would suspect something was going on inside. And he would immediately call the nearest vet. He would, try and find that on his phone and call the nearest vet and have them, walk through what he would need to do. He would not leave that dog there, and he would definitely pull over. He wouldn't freak out. He would just get out and go to action. And that's like one of the great things about him. So he would go to action. If the vet said, bring him in, he would immediately do that. Put him in the back seat, drive him and whatnot. And if it turned out, the dog passed away, he would try to find an owner to let them know. He would more than likely let the vet's office dispose of the body. He would, of course, pay for whatever needed to be paid for, but he wouldn't go all out. I mean, it wasn't his dog. And then, now if the dog lived, that'd be a different story, especially if you couldn't find an owner. If you couldn't find an owner and the dog lived, he would more than likely actually take it in. Like, I want to say he would take it to a shelter, but he actually wouldn't. He's not necessarily a pet person, but at the same time he would feel he would feel bad for it, and to him would be kind of like he even though it's horrible to say that, like, hitting a dog in your car is kind of like bonding with it, but he would feel kind of bonded to it, and like it was his responsibility to take care of it. So that's what he would do. Loki, if he hit the dog, actually it's awesome since he is actually Fae. He would actually probably be able to heal the dog himself. I'm not super aware of his powers, but if he wasn't able to heal the dog himself, he would have access to ways to do that. And I imagine actually that in this circumstance, he'd heal the dog. And I kept imagining that, so I'm wondering if that is somehow part of his power, because I know he can do the reverse of, like, harming someone on the inside. He can kind of, like, I don't want to say combust on the inside, but he has a power that can do that. So I wonder if he can do the opposite, and he would do that to the dog. And that's all I could think of, is that he would heal this dog himself. And more than likely, he would not take the dog in. He would heal the dog, make sure it got on its way, and just be done, get back in his car, and probably go get his car washed because he'd be like, ick, I hit a dog. There's probably something on it. So like that's all I imagined in my head for him. It was like really odd. I really had to work at it and think about it because his character really still needs to be like fleshed out. Like Sparrow has been remarkably easy. It's because like again, so many of his aspects are very like normal, um, normal reactions to things and everything like that. Because really, he does have bigger problems. But Loki, on the other hand, he has been through some crap. He has been through some actual like crazy stuff, and plus he killed a guy. Uh, but he is also still at heart a she, and he's still, that's just how he reacts to things. And he never, despite what he's done and been through, he's never stopped being um, what a she entails. He's still Fae and high up on the chain, and there's really nothing that could happen to him to make him think otherwise. So, um, so yeah, that's what I thought of for these two, and I guess that's it for answering the prompt with them. I'm enjoying answering this prompt. It is just interesting to what I mean, it's interesting to think about your characters in these scenarios because I really am like learning some things about them, like Loki and his healing, and just how Sparrow is just like the most easygoing guy. And I'm definitely learning stuff about her, who I do have like her backstory in my head, but it's really interesting to say it out loud in response to these scenarios and really understand the heart of her. It's really interesting. So I'm glad that this was put out there, and I kind of want to like keep answering it with people. So I may do that. So if I do this video again with more dolls, then I want to apologize in advance, but hopefully they're not too like boring or whatnot, and they may interest you to know my characters, especially since apparently I don't know them as well as I thought I did. So yeah, that is all I can think of for them. Thank you very, very much again for this prompt, and that is it. I'll talk to you later. Bye.